This is Merrell Fankhauser, and you are listening to Vinyl Relics.
This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
Welcome to Vinyl Relics, a podcast for groovy people who like music. Vinyl Relics is a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. I'm your host, Farmer John. I plow the musical landscape to unearth treasures that time has forgotten. This week, I'm joined by a guest who has a massive body of work, and we're going to dive into one of the albums he recorded with one of his bands. And next week, he'll return as we dive into a completely different style of album by a completely different band he was also part of. This cat has run the gamut of musical styles through his 65 years in the music business. So today is kinda part one of a two-part snapshot into his long and storied career. Esteemed listeners, I present to you episode 60, Things, the 1968 album by Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty.
Things are going round in my mind. Things are gonna make me cry. If you don't say you'll be my girl, these things are gonna make me die. Things I've gotta tell you.
We'll get the background story on this album and dive into each track with help from Merrell himself. We'll see what the critics have to say, and of course, we'll check in with our psychedelic wizard, Uncle Herff, to get his take on this album. And stay tuned to the end as I give you a sneak peek of next week's show, where Merrell returns to talk about one of his other bands that has a Captain Beefheart connection. But before we do all that, let's recap last week's episode, the great 1971 album Congas by John Congas. John Congas started his career in South Africa, releasing several albums as a teenager. When he moved to England, he continued his career releasing a folk pop album in 1969. By the early 70s, he had a new batch of songs and began recording them with famed producer Gus Dudgeon and Elton John's backing band. He released the single He's Gonna Step on You Again, which was a big hit, and Happy Mondays fans may recognize it as they had a hit with a remake in the 1990s. This track is often used as one of the first examples of sampling.
So we went to Trident Studios and we got in a bunch of percussion players and drummers, and we played them the track and we said, right, this is what we want to do. And they played and we rehearsed and played. No way was it even close. So eventually Gus said, we've got to use the loop.
The Congas album is solid throughout, with excellent songwriting, catchy tunes, great production, and great musicianship. It fell under the radar in North America, and that's a real shame, as it's a winner from start to finish. I'm curious to know what you think of Congas. Drop a comment on any of the Vinyl Relics social media pages, or shoot me an email at farmerjohnmusic@gmail.com. And And when we return, we'll discuss the things going round in my mind.
Hey, everybody! We're partying to our brand new record, Space Ghost Surfing Tour.
22 tiki torch tunes like these.
Mashed potatoes!
Bad bug.
I like bananas because they have no bones.
Zorag's got the blues.
Mooka Looka, Holla Walla.
Enter to win Space Ghost's ultimate Hawaiian vacation at Musicland.
Hey! Let go of my pants!
If you like this show, consider backing us on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. We're an independent production that relies on listener support to bring you more content. Patreon backers will also enjoy ad-free versions of each episode. The link is in the show notes if you'd like to sign up, and thank you for your support.
Farmer job!
Merrell Fankhauser. When it comes to rock and roll names, well, kids, it doesn't get much better than that. I've been following Merrell's career for some time now, collecting as many albums of his that I can get my hands on. But it wasn't until I interviewed him that I correctly learned how to pronounce his name. See, it's spelled Merrell, so it looks like Merrell. But that's not how you say it. And in case you go looking for Merrell's work, you should know how to spell his last name too, which is Fankhausser. Imagine my surprise/embarrassment when I connected with Merrell and called him Merrell.
Fankhauser, it's Swiss. My relatives were all from Switzerland, and actually my first name is pronounced Merle, like Merle Haggard, but the way my parents spelled it, people want to pronounce it Merrill until they hear it enough, but it's Merle.
Okay, now that we got that all straightened out, let's get Merrell's backstory. He was kind enough to join me for the show, and I wanted to start by getting a sense of how he became interested in music.
My dad gave me a ukulele. I was lucky to grow up in a household of music. My mom sang in a big band, and my dad played guitar and banjo. So there was always music in the house, and I just, started writing little songs when I was probably 12 or so.
After the ukulele, Merrell graduated to the guitar and started practicing. And he got good. Really good, in fact. As a teenager, he would play some shows with friends and even scored a solo gig entertaining kids at a local theater.
And I also played at a local theater for the kids' matinees on Saturdays and Sundays. And the manager of the theater heard me one day after we were cleaning up in the theater. I was playing guitar and singing because it had a great echo. And he said, "Hey, Merrell, you got a good voice and you play good. How would you like to get on stage and play 3 or 4 songs in between the movies for the kids?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'll give you $15 extra." So I was doing pretty good, making a little money for cleaning up the theater with another person. And then I ended up playing at the theater.
Growing up on the sunny California coast, naturally Merrell was also drawn to surfing. And of course, you're familiar with the instrumental craze that followed with bands like the Safaris and the Ventures. But Merrell was actually at the forefront of that craze.
By the time I was 17, I was performing here on the California Central Coast in a theater, and some local guys that were starting a band heard me and got me to play lead guitar with them, and that was the surf band, the Impacts. It had the album Wipeout in 1962.
Now here's a story we've heard here many times. That old tale of shady business practices in the music industry. In this variation, some teenage kids were taken advantage of under the guise of a lucky break. But a more apt way to describe it may be that they were lured into a recording contract. Young Merrell, who had written all the songs, signed away his publishing and royalty rights, not having any clue what ramifications that would later have.
Some crooked producers heard us playing at the Rose Garden Ballroom in Pismo Beach, which was the largest ballroom between L.A. and San Francisco at the time. It could hold over 1,000 people, kids, and we had quite a following there every weekend, and they heard us, took us down to L.A., and because I was surfing, and I wrote all these songs and put surf titles to them, they took us in the studio, and we were all excited to be in a studio, and because we'd been playing these songs, we knocked a whole album's worth of songs out one afternoon. And that was before anybody heard the song.
The song Merrell's referring to is the title track to the Impact's album Wipeout. When talking surf music, Wipeout is probably the first song that comes to mind. It's ubiquitous with the genre, and when you hear it, you immediately think about surfboards, catching some waves, and girls in bikinis. Yes, how I love me some surfboards. I love me some surfboards. Now, here's where things get a little complicated. Merrell's band The Impacts released their song Wipeout on an album of the same name in 1962. A year later, the Surfaris released their surf song with the same title, the version you're probably more familiar with. With The Impacts version coming out a year before and having the same title and that same familiar surf style, naturally, Merrell feels he was ripped off. The Surfaris, on the other hand, who were also from California, claim they wrote their song independently, and it just so happened to be a surf song with the same title. Now, I decided to dig a little deeper here. The Impacts were from San Luis Obispo, California, while the Surfaris were from Glendora, California, which is about 200 miles away. I investigated the radio stations in San Luis Obispo at the time and learned that they were very small local stations. And on the AM dial, they would have had a relatively weak signal that likely would not have been able to reach Glendora. The only stations with a lot of range would be the big stations out of nearby LA. But when I asked Merrell about first hearing his songs on the radio, he distinctly recalls hearing the entire Impacts album being played by one of those big stations in LA. If that's the case, with radio being the prime source of entertainment for teenagers, especially those who were budding musicians, it's very possible the Surfaris would have heard it.
It would have been about December of 1963. I heard the whole Impacts album. They were playing all of the songs on it. And I remember driving down in L.A., hearing one of them on the radio, and it was on the biggest station in L.A. at the time, KRLA, and I had to pull over to the side of the road.
I'm not here to say whether or not this song was stolen. Merrell feels it was, and I completely understand where he's coming from. If there's good news to this story, it's that after years of litigation, Merrell finally did get the rights back to those songs.
We did it over a year before the Surfaris, the Ventures, or anybody else did it. And I wrote the song, and at first I called it Kick Out. And one day I got wiped out on a big wave at Pismo Beach, and I was driving home in my car after I got the sand out of my face. And I said, Wipeout, because the sax player was laughing at me and embarrassed me in front of a bunch of pretty girls that were there. And he said, Merrell really got wiped out on that. So I changed the name to Wipeout, and that was before these two producers ended up taking us in the studio. knew it, they had sold it to Delphi Records, a label that discovered Richie Valens, Bobby Fuller IV, and a bunch of people. And we didn't know anything about, songwriting, copyrights, or any of that, or ASCAP or BMI. They put it all in their names. So for quite a while, they were just taking all the money the record company was paying, and we weren't getting anything. And it took quite a while for me to get the copyright back. And by then, they had played it for all these different bands, including the Safaris, and they all recorded the song, and they got ripped off by the same producer publishers. They had us do two versions. We did one version and only had one drum solo, and then later they had us do another one with drum solos all the way through. We thought that was kind of dumb, but it was a hit. And our album came out in December of 1962 on Delphi Records, and then in April of 63, other bands started coming out with the song on their album. I still have the crooked copyright. I signed with them too, and it's dated probably the 4th of January of 1962.
Merrell's family moved away from California for a brief time. That spelled the end of the Impacts, but it wasn't long until Merrell started a new band. This time, his band member was guitarist Jeff Cotton. Captain Beefheart fans will be well aware of that name, as Cotton spent a few years in the Magic Band during the most influential time in that band's history. But when Merrell met him, he was just another teenager trying to crack the code of guitar playing. Merrell helped him unlock some of its mysteries.
My dad was a flight instructor, and we moved over to the desert in the Lancaster area, and he took over a flight school there. And I was in the airplane hangar playing my guitar, and Jeff Cotton's dad worked at the airport and heard me. And he said, "Oh, my son's learning to play the guitar. Would you like to come home and play with him?" And I went, yeah. I didn't like being out in the desert after living near the ocean. So I went there, and I was about 19 then, and Jeff Cotton was 14, young kid sitting on the couch learning to play the guitar, and I started teaching him more stuff and then taught him my surf songs, and then we said, let's form a band. So we formed a band with a few other members we found up there in the desert that Jeff had gone to school with, and we started Merrell and the Exiles.
Merrell and the Exiles recorded a handful of singles between 1964 and 1967. Their sound has a mix of some surf influence and what sounds like British invasion influence, though Merrell is quick to point out that a lot of these songs were written before they had even heard of the Beatles. There's an innocence of youth aspect to these songs. While none of them would be considered masterpieces, there's definitely promise here.
I wrote some of those songs in 1963, even before the Beatles or anything, that were in the Exiles. And you're right, it was the innocence of youth and having, girlfriends and things. And a lot of those songs got a lot of plays.
Right on a walking, baby, don't you never stop. Keep right on a running, baby, around the clock. No, I'm sorry, baby, for the things I've done. But remember one thing, baby, you're the only one. Now, baby, run. Yeah, baby, run. Yeah, baby, run, run, run around the clock.
In the 90s, all of the Merrell and the Exiles tracks were rounded up for a compilation titled The Early Years. If you're like me, someone who digs the sound of lo-fi 60s garage rock, this one is worth seeking out.
One day she comes and another day she goes. She only stays to let everybody know that she puts you down and there ain't no ties on her.
Merrell and the Exiles songs got played on big LA radio and in a lot of places across the United States and in Europe.
Drink with me, and she's not around to make any plans for her. Tomorrow's girl will be funny. She won't even laugh and sing. And the flowers that she gave her.
The Exiles disbanded, and Merrell and the family moved back to California, a move Merrell was happy to make. Merrell and Jeff Cotton's musical odyssey would continue a little later on in another one-and-done band, but spoiler alert, we're going to dive into that really unique album next week. While back in California, Merrell started a new band with another name I was pronouncing incorrectly. This band had the unusual name Fapardokly.
I made up the name from the guys that were in the band, the two letters of the last name of each person, F.A. for Fankhauser, P.A.R. for Parrish, who was our bass player at the time, D.O. for Dodd, Bill Dodd, and Dick Lee. So it turned out Fapardokly. I thought we needed more of a psychedelic sounding name.
Do you miss the box that you came in? Do you hate the cracks on the wall? Do you wish the person that made you never would have made you at all? Do you wish that no one would whine you? Are you tired of being so tall? Do you wish the person that placed you?
Lila has been in, 4 movies now and a TV show. It was in The Trial of the Chicago 7, which was a pretty big movie that won some awards, and then Chappaquiddick about Kennedy. It got in that, and they pay me pretty good for using those songs.
Today, the Fapardokly album is highly regarded by folk and garage rock and psych collectors. Original copies are commanding very high prices.
1967, we did an album you may have heard of called Fapardokly, and it's now worth $2,000 for a sealed copy. And the record company gave me 25 of them, and I had them in my mom's closet, and then people kept buying them from me, and the price kept going up. And at one point in the 60s, it was selling for $750 a copy, and I couldn't believe it. Then, later on, it doubled, and I only had 4 copies left, and I sold 2 of them for $1,500 each. And then a guy called me up from Italy, said he'd give me $2,000 for one, and I just couldn't believe it. And I got the 2 I have left. I have one on the wall in my studio framed, and one in a box that I'm not getting rid of. Been reissued on several labels and then even on CD also. What label do you have it on? Probably the British label.
Fapardokly split, and Merrell decided to form yet another band. This band was called Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty. I always had the suspicion that the band was initially just called H.M.S. Bounty, and that maybe the record label slapped Merrell's name in front.
You're exactly correct. Russ Reagan was the president of the company at the time, and he said, "Oh, Merrell Fankhauser is such a different sounding name. We want to call it Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty." And it was the producer's idea to call it H.M.S. Bounty, because at that point, anything British sounding, sold. So Russ Reagan said, no, it's got to be Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty. And that's how they put it out. And, it sold well.
H.M.S. Bounty's sole album was released in November 1968 on the Shamley label, cat number SS701. When we return, with Merrell's help, we'll dive into each track.
From the pages of maritime history comes one of the last sailing vessels of her kind. The H.M.S. Bounty is once again setting sail on the high seas, bound for a port near you. So come aboard, walk the decks with Fletcher Christian and Captain Bligh, gaze aloft, taste the salt air, and sense the adventure that is the Bounty. It's all part of the Turner Broadcasting Maritime Movie Tour, sponsored by Long John Silver's Seafood Shops.
Savannah, October 28th through the 30th. Jacksonville, November 4th through 6th.
What's going on? I'm Arch Manning, Viore athlete and college quarterback. Whether I'm running, training, traveling, or just unwinding at home, I love doing it in my core shorts from Viore. With a breathable boxer brief liner, they're quick to dry, super versatile, and stand up to even my most intense training sessions. Plus, they come in 3 inseams and a ton of colors. Ready to try a pair? Go to viore.com/arch and get 20% off at checkout. I think you're going to love them as much as I do. That's viore.com/arch and get 20% off your first order. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Have a great day.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
Back to Vinyl Relics with Farmer John.
The album opens with the catchy title track.
Most of my best songs were written in about 15 minutes, and I got to meet John Lennon in 1978, and he said the same thing, and he called it automatic writing. And that's the way it seemed. The publishers that were promoting us couldn't believe it. I'd come up with about 4 or 5 good songs, they said, every week. And Things was the one that they decided as a single.
Things are going round in my mind. Things are gonna make me cry. If you don't say you'll be my girl, these things are gonna make me die. Things I've gotta tell you sometime. Things I think that you should know. If you don't say you'll be my girl, these things are never gonna show. Can't you see my love for you is something I can't hide? Don't you think my love for you is even worth a try?
That album sold good and got on Uni Records. It had Elton John, and we were on the label before Elton John and Neil Diamond, and our song Things became an international radio hit.
Things like love in summertime. If you say that you'll be my girl, these things are gonna work out fine. Things are going round in my mind. Things are gonna make me cry.
Girl, I'm waiting for you. And until you get here, I'm going to listen to this little slice of pop perfection called Girl, I'm Waiting for You.
Girl, I want to love you, make you all mine. How can I love you? Never got the time. I'm waiting for you. Friends say I won't get you. It'll take me all my life, but you know I want you, no matter what the price. I'm waiting for you.
Have any of your friends ever asked, what does she see in you? That's the title of the next little nugget. I like the groove of Lost in the City. Some nice fuzzy guitars. A tad bit heavier.
Somebody told me not to go to this place. You smiled, you laughed, and you tried to hide. In your eyes, I'm a shell of a man. standing over there? Is that you standing over there? Is that you standing over there?
Your Painted Lives is next, which is pure folk rock. Side 1 ends with driving sideways down a one-way street, a rocker with some nice guitar work.
We were hurrying up to get to a gig on the Sunset Strip, and there was all these cars, and I was going down side streets and everything, trying to get around the traffic to get to the venue. And I just came up with the title after thinking about how crazy that drive was, called Driving Sideways on a One-Way Street.
Well, I went to sleep on a trip last night. It hit me so bad, it hurt my mind. I thought I woke up the very next day, standing in the street and I lost my way. Well, a man in a suit said, follow me. So I jumped in the car and I started to speed. It was then I realized what had happened to me. I was driving around sideways on a one-way street.
Side 2 opens with more fuzzy guitars for the track In a Minute Not Too Soon.
Yeah, and the fuzz tone, came out, and then because it was going into that psychedelic period, and I figured, well, we got to have a little fuzz tone in the album.
Hey, hey, honey, do you want the moon? I give you anything you need in a minute and not too soon. A minute is a day, your face alive and glowing. It's beautiful that way, your want for me is showing. Now take power from the seat, do it slow, don't let go. Cool it, baby, make it last. If you want me, let it show.
We get some Eastern influences in A Visit with a Shia.
I got into the sitar thing too, and I picked that up and played it.
I feel my heart is glowing. will take me by the hand. Tomorrow is a daylight. We'll fly into the sky and land upon a hilltop and watch the clouds roll by.
Back to some folky pop rock with The Big Gray Sky.
The big green sky is opening its arms to enfold me. The big blue sky disappeared the day that she told me goodbye. Passing time counting raindrops lying on my bed. I wonder why she left me. I'm wishing I were dead. Every day gets longer. The sun will never set. She gave me all her love.
Rich Man's Fable, more folk rock.
You're a protege of a rich man's fable, laughing, smoking, spiking his drink. He comes from work each day so tired, bringing you news from the missing link. And the man in the suit has no news for you tonight. You got his riches for gone.
Ice Cube Island showcases some more harmonies that are so prevalent throughout this album.
She built a wall around the horse people, trampled a garden daily in Musserhead. Morning finds us on the coastline. To Coldwater Canyon, you better beware. She built the fortress, she mans the wall, she burns the incense, and she hates us all.
The album closes with Madam Silky, one of my favorites here.
Sometimes would sing a lead voice and then do a harmony with myself, and then I'd get Bill Dodd and Jack Mitz. They both had good vocals, the bass player and other guitar player, and work on harmonies with them to put in there too. And I still to this day, I love harmonies.
From your weary wandering, can't you take time at all to stop and let me touch you? Are you really that tall? I know you've been smoking and you can't seem to sleep. Is it because I'm following you that I hear you
And there you have it, the 1968 album Things by Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty.
I remember writing all of these songs. They're, just emblazoned in my mind. It's amazing.
So put out the fire and rest your head on my arm. I never do things to you. I'll only keep you warm. I'll chase a woman from your mind. She'll leave you alone. Madam Silky's gone forever.
In 1985, the album saw a wider re-release and added the bonus track I'm Flying Home. After just the one album, H.M.S. Bounty broke up. A year later, Merrell released his first single billed as Merrell Fankhauser Solo, a track called Tampa Run.
Cross the border when she's ready, leaving Georgia's setting sun. Through the night I sling a half-loaded gun. You know my speed means money on that long, lone Tampa run. By the back roads as the wind blows, bootleg lightning, forest spoonful. She's there waiting but my...
His solo career would then be put on hold for yet another new band. This one would reunite him with guitarist Jeff Cotton, who by this time had concluded his tenure with Captain Beefheart's Magic Band.
Jeff went from the Exiles to Captain Beefheart's band for a while, and then he quit them and got back together with me, and we formed Moo.
And this is where I'll leave things off for now. We'll pick up the story of Merrell's next band, Moo, next week and dive into their lone album. It's a really interesting one where they merge mysticism, meditation, and a rather angular approach to the blues. We'll also explain what Moo is.
It's actually taken from the lost continent of Mu, or Lemuria. And I found out that this was a real thing, that archaeologists went down to South America and they found all of these things on the temples and stuff down there, writings about this continent and how they and the North American Indians have in their legends that when the Hawaiian Islands were all one island out of the water, there was a race of people living there before the Hawaiians got there. And when the Hawaiians came from Tahiti, they said there was a blonde and red-haired race already living there. And I explored on Maui, and I found some strange ruins that were believed to have been from this continent of Mu.
In critical terms, the H.M.S. Bounty album has received excellent reviews from all the sources I've read. AllMusic Guide gave it 4.5 stars out of 5, calling it an album with, quote, fine, tuneful 60s psychedelia with a pop edge, featuring Fankhauser's first-rate songwriting and warm vocals. Its Psychedelic Baby reviewed a re-release in 2017 and wrote, things takes the listener through many mood and tempo changes, but always holds your attention. This is a true folk psych rock classic and certainly belongs in the collection of anyone who enjoys music of this genre. The Rate Your Music site has 311 fan ratings with a high average score of 3.61 out of 5. I really like this album. I think it's one of the best in Merrell's career, which says a lot considering how many he's released. There's great performances and great production here, but the strongest aspect is the solid songwriting. For that reason, I give this one a Farmer John rating of 8.5 hay bales out of 10. Surprisingly, I've never discussed Merrell Fankhauser with Uncle Herff before. As a huge Beefheart fan, I'm sure he'll have a lot to say next week about Moo's album. But for now, let's see what our psychedelic wizard has to say about Things.
Did someone summon the wizard? Did someone summon the wizard? Did someone summon the
Your psychedelic wizard, Uncle Herff, here at Farmer John's request to wax poetic about 1968's Things from Merrell Fankhauser and H.M.S. Bounty. The album was released on Shamley Records, nicknamed Uni's Baby, a reference to its distributor Universal City Records, a division of MCA Incorporated. The label is known for bringing us such seminal acts as Strawberry Alarm Clock, The Foundations, and Fever Tree. For better or for worse, they also gave us Neil Diamond, Elton John, Olivia Newton-John, Andy Kim, Orange Colored Sky, and Bill Cosby. My gateway to Uni was 1972's Geronimo Black, which led label explorer me to discover Rainy Days' That Acapulco Gold and the Druids of Stonehenge's Creation. The item description for the Gear Fab reissue says it all. This album is awash in stone vocals, walls of sitar, thick fuzz tones, and is best described as acid folk rock. It has been linked to Buffalo Springfield's Spirit, The Byrds, and Cream. One of the things that stands out to me is the use of instrument effects is very textbook, for lack of a better term. Almost as if the musicians were dialing them in according to the manual and its accompanying demo record. This is something very common in this era and genre, especially when session musicians and/or a particular studio, in this case Gold Star, leave their stamp on the production. That aside, it is one of those almost too good to be true records of its time, thanks in no small part to it being phase 3 in the criminally underrated Merrell Fankhauser's evolution. I give this album an orange sunshine pop rating. Back to you on planet Earth, Farmer John.
Listeners, you've heard what I think, you've heard what the critics think, and now you've heard Uncle Herff's take. Now it's time to hear what you think of Things. Drop me a line at farmerjohnmusic@gmail.com.
Oh, Farmer John!
If you like this show, consider backing us on Patreon. We're an independent production that relies on your support to continue bringing you more content like what you've just heard. There's a link in the show notes, and it only takes a few seconds to sign up. Patreon backers will also get access to ad-free versions of each episode. Please tell a groovy friend about the program, as your recommendation is the best way to help us grow. You're cool, your friends are cool, and they deserve to hear cool music. Don't forget to take 30 seconds to rate and review the show. Good ratings help us move up in the rankings and help us get noticed. And lastly, you can hear all the music used in each episode. Go to the music section of the episode show notes, where you'll find a list of the songs I've featured and a link to a Spotify playlist. My thanks to Merrell for taking time with me to walk through his career. He's released so many albums with various bands and on his own, and I'm excited to bring you the story of another one next week that has a much different sound. Merrell will be joining us again for that one, so stay tuned. Also, my thanks as always to the psychedelic wizard Uncle Herff for his insightful commentary. The show is written, produced, and edited by me, Farmer John. Technical assistance by Adam Plant at Beats Working. Opening theme and the music you're listening to now by my band, Newport Electric. All our music is available on all streaming platforms.
Me into the unknown, my beacon in the night. I follow where you go. I won't question what I feel. Your grip is taking hold. Here at your kingdom as I kneel, watch you shining like gold, like Eldorado's gold.
Thanks for tuning in, turning on, and dropping by Vinyl Relics. I'm Farmer John, and I hope you dig things as much as I do.
Things are going round in my mind. Things are gonna make me cry. If you don't say you'll be my girl, these things are gonna make me die. Things I've gotta tell you sometime. Things I think that you should know. If you don't say you'll be my girl, these things are never gonna show. Can't you see my love for you is something I can't hide? Don't you think my love for you is even worth a try? La 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 la
Vinyl Relics.